narrow land, separated the southern and the north of Greece. The Apostle Paul spent 18 months there during his second missionary trip and founded a church there. Paul's work in Corinth during this time is recounted in Acts chapter 18. At the end of this visit to Corinth, Paul departed to visit Ephesus, Jerusalem, Antioch, and Galatia. That's in chapter 18. I'm trying to see the context. Paul writes this letter to answer a report from the people of Chloe about the problems in the church in Corinth. In this letter, he responds to these problems through apostolic teaching. In chapter 8 through 10, Paul addressed the issue of eating food that had been sacrificed to idols. In chapter 11, he dealt with subjects related to covering the head and abuses related to the Lord's Supper. In chapter 12 through 14, Paul addressed that theme of the spiritual gifts. Paul concludes chapter 12 by saying, "Yet I show you more excellent way," words that introduce what you are going to say about love in chapter 13. This is the context of our text this morning. So the biblical passage that we have to meditate in this first Sunday of Lent is a comparison of the life of children with the life of adults. No one is born knowing everything. Child needs to pass experiences in order to be mature. You know, the characteristic of the child is that they love to speak a lot. When they start talking, there is no one to work them. Like when you are born again, you speak of God to the whole world. It's difficult to silence him. He has the joy of sharing. But a child sometimes talks more than is right, beyond the reasonable, and sometimes does not think before speaking. You have to think what you are going to say. There are many hyperactive and impulsive Peters, the Apostle Peters. Jesus spoke just as necessary, was not inopportune, spoke to no other. We make mistakes after talking more of the account we say. "Oh, that's what I said? My God, I must turn the cassette and to erase that part," but many times it's so light. It's difficult to amend a fool. The children normally doesn't have experience, It's a neophyte. It's not mature. You can't ask maturity questions to children. Paul says they are not yet ripe to food, they only drink milk. They have been in the church for years, but they are still drinking milk. God speaks to us this morning to mature. But children have the desire and the anxiety to live. Sometimes children cry, discuss loud, but is happy very soon. But when we fight, it's very difficult as adults to reconcile again. It's different. We must have the character of Christ. How many of us get used to getting angry really fast. Then we do not talk each other. God does not want us to hurt ourselves. If we are a body, criticizing the brother or sister, we hurt ourselves. The message is that we stop behaving like children. John F. Kennedy once quoted his favorite poet, Robert Cross. Education is the ability to listen to almost anything without losing your temper and self-confidence. Many times I ask, we quickly lose our composure, our temperament. We get angry. And sometimes it's late when we react. It's too late to talk. James 1:19 says, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." Only with maturity comes responsibility. God gives responsibilities to an adult. This passage is not scolding. The verse says, "When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I thought as a child. I judged as a child. But when I was a man, I left what was a child." That's verse 11. It will be possible to read this verse as a scolding towards the Corinthian Christians who have not left what was a child. But Paul does not intend to punish them. Instead, it contrasts the world we know now with the world to come in the future. Once the fulfillment of the kingdom of God comes, things that now seem important to us will completely lose their significance in the future. So this verse identifies the period of spiritual development between conversation and more or less time when spiritual maturity is reached. The Christian who reaches maturity lives what was a child. Attitudes, behaviors, exaggerated sensibilities, distorted concepts, half knowledge. In short, everything that is usually characteristic of spiritual immaturity. Nor do you need to see signs, miracles, or prodigies to maintain your faith and commitment. No, we see by a mirror in obscurity. But then, when we'll see face to face again, Paul contrasts what we experience in this age with what we will live in the future. The Greek word sopatron can mean glass or mirror. It's important to remember that people from the time of Paul did not have the high quality mirrors like now, like today. We are accustomed to look in the mirror and see an exact reflection that reveals how we see each other. Beautiful, less beautiful, etc. When the Apostle Paul says that we see by a mirror in darkness, it means that the spiritual understanding we have now is only an inaccurate reflection of what we will experience in the age to come. In that new life in the future, we will not see in obscurity as in mirrors of low quality, but face to face. Exactly what it is. I'm struck by the different translations of the original Greek. For example, in our King James Version says, "Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known." But look, in a Revised Standard Version says, Now I know in part, then shall understand fully, even as I have been fully understood. Also, the New International Version says, now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. In this way, we are in the imperfect stage, full of doubts, of tests and uncertainties, where as children we fight to live in a multicultural church, black church, whites, Hispanics, Indians. However, I believe that this church is learning to mature and stop being fluctuating children who do not want to share their toys with other children. But when the time comes for the reign of the perfect God, everything will change and we will know the Lord fully. Do you believe that? Amen. In the same way that God knows us completely now, in the future we will also know God fully. How many would you like to see the Lord face to face? I want to see him face to face. My God bless this Aldersgate Church, which lives and struggles in that hope that fight and love will triumph fully. Let's continue to be a mature church, the church of the warm heart. Amen. God bless you.